I have stood on the concrete floor of a co-packing facility and watched a single vat of processed chicken puree get pumped into 4 different hoppers. Each hopper led to a separate packaging line, feeding a completely different retail package. One vat of meat paste went into a premium squeeze pouch. Another portion went into a generic discount bag. The cat treat aisle is an illusion of choice. Today we are looking at 7 cat treat brands made in the same Chinese plant, where the label is the only difference. If you buy from Walmart or Target, you have undoubtedly held these identical products in your hands. Major players like Purina and Hartz source heavily through these overseas networks using a system called white label co-packing. When you turn over a bag of chicken jerky or a sleeve of lickable treats and realize you overpaid for the exact same commodity ingredients, do not blame yourself. The pet food industry spends hundreds of millions of dollars on packaging design, specifically so the front of the bag is misread. You wanted to reward your animal and you trusted the marketing. We are covering 7 specific labels today to show you exactly how this global supply chain functions. By the end of this breakdown, you will have a clear positive list of products that actually deserve your money. The mechanism hiding this reality from you is a manufacturing practice called white label co-packing. Most recognizable logos on the shelf do not own the stainless steel machines cooking the treats. The parent corporations contract with massive industrial facilities heavily concentrated overseas. A foreign factory will develop a base formula for a wet puree or a dried chicken strip. The factory offers that same base formula to multiple competing U.S. brands. The parent companies negotiate minor tweaks to the moisture content or add a vitamin pack, but the bulk commodity is identical. Track this yourself by reading the lot codes near the expiration date. When you see matching factory registration codes on 2 differently priced bags of crunchy snacks, you are looking at the exact same assembly line. The FDA tracks these facilities carefully. Public record from the 2014 jerky treat investigations heavily documented how dependent the U.S. market is on these specific foreign plants. Thousands of consumer complaints tied back to imported poultry products during that period. Formulators I have worked with will tell you the overseas treat market remains a black box of ingredient sourcing. Treat calories add up fast because they are highly concentrated. These snacks displace the balanced nutrition of the main diet. For any specific concerns about how many extra calories your animal can handle or whether they need a specialized diet, talk to your veterinarian. They hold the medical chart. My job is just to read the ingredient panel and follow the corporate money. I keep a running list of the pouches and bags that actually pass my vetting process, linked below in the description. But stay with me right now, because the 4th label on this list is a massive premium brand that shares a factory with a bottom-tier discount bag. Let us look at the shelf price first. Amazon Basics sells a private label cat treat under their WAG banner for about $3 a pouch. The front of the bag promises real chicken as the primary draw. The ingredient panel reveals a standard vegetable glycerin and rice flour binder system. Amazon does not own a pet food plant. The retail giant contracts with third-party manufacturers to produce this white label product overseas. When you calculate the price per ounce, this budget option actually costs more than $16 a pound. That number represents premium steak pricing for a glycerin-bound carbohydrate snack. The corporate math relies on the consumer tossing a cheap item into their digital cart without doing the division. Nestlé Purina dominates the wet food and treat market with incredible volume. Their fancy feast savory cravings break apart, treats present themselves as an elegant gourmet experience. The corporate structure behind this relies on enormous co-packing scale to meet global demand. The guaranteed analysis on this specific box shows a moisture level of just 8%. Carbohydrate by difference math tells us the rest of the formula is heavily reliant on starches to hold that rigid, breakable shape. You are paying for the brand equity of the Fancy Feast logo, while the physical product rolls off an industrial line optimized for dry matter extrusion. The verdict here is a massive retail markup on brewer's rice and animal fat dressed up in a premium cardboard box. Squeeze treats are the fastest growing segment in the entire aisle. Hart's Delectables prints massive graphics of raw fish and fresh chicken breast right on the front plastic. Label facts dictate what legally goes inside the tube. Read the back panel on a pouch of Delectables. The actual liquid is a slurry heavily reliant on water and thickening agents like tapioca starch to create that glossy texture. The regulatory bodies allow the front of the packaging to feature those beautiful protein cuts as long as the base flavor is mathematically present. This product is manufactured in foreign co-packing facilities where labor and mixing are cheap. The consumer pays nearly $20 a pound, mostly for shipped water and heavily processed starch. The geographical location of the manufacturing plant is rarely printed clearly on the front of the bag. Blue Buffalo Wilderness Trail treats market themselves to the ancestral diet crowd. General Mills bought this company for $8 billion to capture that exact demographic. The ingredient panel lists chicken and chicken meal, but the recipe also leans heavily on potatoes to bind the crunch. If you track the lot codes and the fine print, many of these specialty runs are completely outsourced. The buyer is paying a premium for the wolf imagery and the wilderness trademark. The actual manufacturing reality is a standard extruded starch pellet dusted in animal fat for palatability. What is in your cat's bowl right now? Drop the Daily Treat brand in the comments. I read them all, and the names that come up most become my next deep dive investigation. Side-by-side comparison exposes the illusion perfectly. Put a bag of Friskies Party Mix next to a generic store brand at a major grocery chain. Friskies is another massive Nestlé Purina property. The shapes in the two bags are slightly different. The artificial coloring dyes are slightly different. The guaranteed analysis on both bags sits at roughly 30% protein and 15% fat. Both ingredient panels list chicken byproduct meal and corn gluten meal as primary drivers of that protein number. The public record shows these massive corporate runs often share the exact same commodity grain suppliers. A customer pays a $3 premium for the Friskies television marketing budget on a product functionally identical to the cheaper generic bag beside it. Protein numbers drive premium treat sales across every brand. Wellness Kittles print a high-protein claim in bold letters on their bright packaging. The guaranteed analysis verifies a crude protein minimum of 30%. Look at the ingredient panel to see where that protein originates. The list includes chicken meal, but also heavily relies on peas and chickpeas. Plant-based proteins cost a fraction of animal muscle meat on the open commodity market. Cats are obligate carnivores. Feline digestive systems are built to process animal tissue. Formulators know that pea protein boosts the paper number without raising the cost per batch. The markup here is based on a health halo that does not match the biological needs of the animal consuming the product. Everyone knows the bright yellow bag. Temptations is owned by Mars Pet Care, and the conglomerate is the undisputed volume king of the snack aisle. Their reputation among owners is practically legendary for being highly addictive to pets. The label fact, explaining that addiction is incredibly simple. The ingredient panel shows a corn and wheat base. The secret is the outer coating on the square. The kibble is heavily sprayed in animal digest and rendered fat. Rendered fat is an industry-standard palatant. The coating is designed to smell irresistible to a carnivore. The buyer thinks the animal loves the treat itself. The animal actually loves the rendered fat sprayed on the outside of a cheap carbohydrate shell. You are buying flavored corn at $20 a pound. That is the bad news about the overseas white label machine. Here is what is actually in my cat's bowl when it is time for a reward. Finding a clean treat requires ignoring the front label entirely and reading the back panel like a forensic accountant. A shopper does not need to spend $50 a month to get a good product. Sometimes the simplest ingredient list wins. For a budget pick, I genuinely respect the Pure Bites freeze-dried chicken breast. The formula is not complex. The bag contains freeze-dried chicken breast. That single item is the entire ingredient panel. The guaranteed analysis shows over 70% protein and virtually zero carbohydrates. Because the moisture has been removed, the shelf life is exceptional. A buyer pays for meat. The customer is not paying for tapioca starch, vegetable glycerin, or pea protein. The corporate structure here is transparent. Pure Bites produces a highly functional treat that respects the carnivorous nature of the animal without relying on cheap overseas filler. For a splurge pick, I look at Origin freeze-dried original treats. Champion Pet Foods manufactures this line. The ingredient panel reads like a butcher shop inventory. Free-run chicken, turkey, and monkfish make up the vast majority of the bag weight. Champion uses whole prey ratios, which means including organs and bone in the mix. The cost per ounce is undeniably high. The commodity math justifies that shelf price because raw animal tissue is expensive to procure and process safely. There are no synthetic gums holding the pieces together. These are my choices based on reading supply chain data. Your individual animal might have specific chewing limitations, dental restrictions, or weight management requirements. Always hand the final decision about treats and daily caloric intake to the cat's veterinarian. The doctor holds the medical context I do not have. The rule of thumb for the treat aisle next week is aggressively simple. Pick up the bag and count the ingredients. If the list is longer than 5 items and includes the words flour, gluten, or glycerin, put the product back on the shelf. You are buying expensive glue. I do one of these investigations every week, one shelf at a time. If you want to stop guessing at the pet store, subscribe to the channel. Grab the free cat treat category list from the link below so you have the safe brands on your phone. 7 cat treat brands made in the same Chinese plant should be enough to make anyone read the back of the bag. Next week we are tearing apart the dust-free claims in the clay litter aisle.